because it's using a mesh topology. So now we're going to talk about wireless topologies.
So tadi kita ada discuss teknologi apa? Star, lepas tu ring, lepas tu bus, lepas tu mesh. Dan kita kena tahu apa dia punya kebaikan dan apa dia punya keburukan. So macam last kali tadi mesh, kebaikan dia ialah walaupun down, let's say one or two devices down, sebab dia punya connection tu banyak, dia pusing-pusing sini. So last kali still digunakan untuk internet lah. Itu maksud dia. And next we move on to wireless pula.
Infrastructure wireless topology. Now this topology uses a combination of wired and wireless devices. Now this is very similar to a star topology, where you have wired devices such as these computers here physically connected to a switch. And you also have a wireless access point that's also connected by a cable to the same switch. The wireless access point is here so that wireless devices such as laptops, tablets, cell phones, etc. can connect wirelessly to the network. So the wireless access point is like a bridge between the wireless network and the wired network. Now the infrastructure topology is not limited to a single wireless access point. In fact, you can have multiple wireless access points if you want. It just depends on the needs of the network. And the next wireless topology is ad hoc. Ad hoc is a very simple wireless topology. And it's simple because it doesn't rely on any infrastructure, such as cables, routers, servers, or wireless access points.
So yang ad hoc ni dia tak perlu wire. So fully wireless is ad hoc. Bahasa Inggeris ad hoc tu maksud dia as and when lah. Bila suka-suka pun boleh, tak suka pun boleh. Dia not plan. Biasa perkataan not plan ialah ad hoc lah. So this one ialah dia punya jenis topology. Ada soalan ke kat belakang? Or just buat yoga? Tangan ke atas. Okay. So sekarang ni as we are doing this, some of you are downloading. Ada manage to download ataupun tak pasti. Okay, saya tunjuk sekejap apa yang maksud saya. Kita pergi ke kita punya group. Lepas tu sini saya letak dua link. Okay, link pertama ialah virtual box. So, bila klik virtual box ni, dia akan ke sini. First thing you do ialah you ambil yang Windows punya. Faham Download yang Windows dulu. Lepas dah download ni, pergi pula ke sini, accept and download virtual extension pack. So dua file ni kena ada. And then virtual box mula-mula seperti biasa lah. Bila dia masuk dekat folder, dia ada satu apa kita panggil lah exe punya file. Macam ni, dia keluar macam ni. Ini dia punya extension, ini ialah dia punya win.exe. Faham tak? So pertama sekali kita kena execute yang VirtualBox 7. The latest lah, 0.2.1. Lepas tu once sudah install ni, nanti saya tunjuk video tu macam mana nak install dia punya extension pack dan macam mana nak install Kali Linux. Yalah, ini kita punya objektif lah. Semua kena buat supaya kita sudah ada satu server kecil dekat laptop. So setakat ni apa progress? Maksud tu boleh dapat link ni, boleh buka dalam laptop. Tengah download. Okey, bagus. Semua tengah download ke? Okey. Ada yang dah? Siapa yang dah? Belum, still downloading Okay, ni mungkin dia punya internet ni slow sikit. So tak apa, kita tunggu. Semasa kita tunggu internet tu, teruskan kepada tadi yang video tadi untuk knowledge.
In an ad hoc network, wirelessly connect to other devices in a simple peer-to-peer network. They directly connect to each other without using a centralized device. such as a Wi-Fi router or access point. And because they directly access each other without a server or router in between, each device is responsible for its own security and permissions.
The war in Sudan has wiped away 4-year-old Malah's smile. And
Ad hocs are useful for setting a quick wireless network on the fly where devices can share data with existing wireless network. Last wireless topology is called a wireless mesh. Wireless mesh topologies are similar to wired mesh topologies, where devices are interconnected with each other, but with the exception that they are wirelessly interconnected. So for example, let's say you wanted to deploy multiple wireless access points all throughout a building so that wireless devices that are in different areas are able to access the internet. So normally you would have a modem that brings in the internet to the building. And then you would also have a switch that's connected to the modem. And then you would connect each wireless access point with a cable to the switch. So by doing it this way, this requires extra cabling, and it would also require extra time running the cables through the building. So this is more expensive and more time consuming. Now a wireless mesh topology would be similar to this setup, but without the need of these extra cables. In a wireless mesh, each wireless access point will talk to.
So di sini dia punya kebaikan ialah tak perlu kabel lah. Sebab kalau nak kabel dia kena apa tu, hacking dekat dinding dan sebagainya.
Other wireless access points to create a seamless internet connection for wireless devices to connect to. So if this laptop over here wanted to access the internet, it would connect to the nearest wireless access point, and then this access point would relay the connection to the next access point, and then to the next one, and then eventually find its way back to the modem. So no matter which access point that you're connected to, you will still have internet access because all the access points are in constant communication with each other.
Semalam saya ada discuss access point, itu maksud dia. Dan dekat dari sini connect ke this router dan connect, itu maksud access point.
And the modem. And even if one or more access points were to fail, it wouldn't matter because the other access points will reroute the data. So a wireless mesh topology is very redundant because the internet.
And then tadi dia cakap dia akan reroute kan. So soalan exam yang akan keluar reroute tu ialah NAT. NAT stand for Network Access Table.
Connection is spread out over many wireless access points.
Penting mengenai cloud server yang keluar dalam exam.
I work this easy because I use Chrome. Here's how they get understanding on the types of cloud computing. We can categorize the different types of cloud computing based on two wide categories, one being the deployment model and the other one being service model. Let's talk about the deployment model first. Deployment model is categorized into three types. First one is public, and then private, and then hybrid cloud. In other words, public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud. It will be easy for me.
Tadi dia cakap pasal private, public dengan hybrid kan. Okay, ni tiga terms ni. Kalau dia cakap private tu, maksud tu dia punya how to say, dia punya network tu hanya untuk dia saja. Dekat macam personal. Contohnya dia ada macam server dekat tempat dia saja, orang lain tak boleh pakai. Tapi public ni ramai yang sharing masuk tu lah. And then hybrid tu ialah combo. Biasa dulu. Sekarang bila orang pergi kerja, dulu masa sebelum COVID hanya satu jenis kerja saja, iaitu kerja di office kan. Lepas COVID jadi ramai yang kerja daripada rumah. So disebabkan kerja dari rumah, dia dah bagi nama kerja apa? Hybrid. So itu maksudnya. Jadi dia boleh kerja dekat rumah ataupun dia boleh kerja dekat office lah, di sistem. So for server pun sama. Dia kata private atau public atau hybrid. It means antara dua lah.
It will be easy for you to understand if I walk you through this example. Consider different types of vehicles we use to commute from one place to another. For example, if I want to travel, I can pick a bus which is accessible to anyone. I get in and I pay for the seat that I occupy and I pay for the time that I will be traveling in it and done. Cost is very less here. A similar kind of thing happens in the public cloud. I pay only for the resource that I use and I pay for how long I use it. If I use less, I pay less. If I use more, I pay more for that month. Simple. On the other hand, private cloud is like buying your own car and using it for commuting purpose. Here, I pay a huge amount upfront and it is all owned only by me. I do not pay for it in an hourly fashion, but completely and all upfront. The cost here is very huge. And thirdly, if I want the best of both types, like the comfort of the own car and still don't want to pay all upfront, otherwise want only to pay for the time that I use the service, I can rent a car. Similarly, I can have it in a hybrid environment. Meaning, if I all
Setakat ni public cloud tu dia accessible to semua orang. Private tu macam sendiri lah, atau moko sendiri. Dia boleh guna bila dia nak. Tapi public tu, bila you travel, you gonna travel dengan orang lain, dengan stranger yang you tak tahu pun. And then taxi tu ialah dia sejenis hybrid model.
They have DC, I can integrate it with the cloud and use both the DCs, and that would become an hybrid environment. Alright, so that was good open learning. Let's summarize the types of cloud based on deployment models. And as we know now about the public cloud is a cloud infrastructure that's made available to the general public over the internet, and it is owned by the cloud provider. Some of the major players as cloud providers are AWS, Microsoft Azure, IBM's Blue Cloud, and Sun Cloud. And private cloud, now this cloud infrastructure is exclusively operated by a single organization. It can be managed by organizations or third party and may exist on premises or off premises, doesn't matter, but the point here is this is exclusively operated for.
Yang sekarang yang you tengah downloadkan Oracle VirtualBox, dia sebenarnya sejenis VMware. Ini sini kan VMware. AWS sebenarnya server nama dia ialah Amazon Web Server. So kena tahu dia punya term.
And some companies that provide private cloud are AWS and VMware. And hybrid cloud gives the best of both public and the private cloud. For example, the federal agencies, they opt for private clouds for storing and developing personal data. And they use public cloud to share the non-sensitive data with the general public or with other government departments. Now let's talk about different cloud based on the service one. If we need to categorize them broadly, we can categorize them as infrastructure as a service, IaaS, or
apa yang saya terima tadi ialah some of you tak dapat download kan. Okay, so actually I tried my best. So memang limitation dekat laptop ni lah. Mungkin dia security ke apa, dia tak bagi untuk download ataupun dan sebagainya. Apa saya akan tunjuk dari site saya.
Service, PaaS, or software as a service, SaaS. They sometimes are referred to as IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. Now at this moment you people like this guy thinking, Sam, I thought you're done categorizing the cloud. Now you're going to talk about 3 more categories?
Okay. Kalau sedar sekarang you semua antara anda ni akan masuk dalam bidang IT. So masa pergi interview ni, ini adalah soalan yang paling kerap dia akan tanya. Apa tu PAS? Apa tu SAS? Apa tu IaaS? Kena ambil tahu I itu ialah infrastructure as a system. PAS is platform as a system, and S is software as a system. Contohnya, as a service, as for service. So you know that dia masa dia guna software tu, dia macam license lah. Daripada beli software tu, dia bagi satu license, then dia share dia punya cost. So dia akan murah lah daripada you beli the whole license ataupun you beli the whole hardware. Itu masa dia.
Should I pick? Well, let me explain. If all that you want is just a VM and you have all the expertise to install the software on top of it and make it work, then go for IaaS. If you only want a platform or an interface to program or an interface to upload a program and make it run, then pick PaaS. Or if all that you want is a finished product hosted in the cloud and be able to access it through the internet, then go for SaaS. Here you get the username and password for an application and you can begin to customize the application based on your needs. Alright, let's talk about IaaS in a bit more detail. IaaS, it gives basic computing infra. It's based on a pay for what you use model. And some of the cloud providers who are big players are AWS, Azure, and Google. And here, the users generally will be IT admins. In PaaS, the provider gives you a platform or a runtime environment for developing, testing, and managing applications. It's platform ready. You buy the platform, you upload your code, and you start working on it. And it allows the software developers to deploy applications without running the underlying infrastructure. And as you might have guessed by now, the interesting candidates who will use PaaS is software developers. And in SaaS, everything is managed by the vendor, be it the hardware or the software, it's managed by the vendor, and we pay for the service and we pay for it through a pay-as-you-go subscription model. And as you might have guessed, the end users here would be end customer itself. Alright, let's put together everything in the same page and compare and contrast the different types of service models. In this chart, it explains the difference between the two models, starting from on-premises to IaaS, and then PaaS and SaaS. It is self-explanatory that the resources managed by us are huge in on-premises and little less in IaaS, and further less or reduced in PaaS, and nothing to manage when it comes to SaaS. Let me also explain the different types of cloud services through an example like this. Let's say that you have a crush on cake and you're planning to bake one yourself. Now let's look at the options you can have. You can make all the ingredients yourself, be it the flour, butter, and put together and bake the whole thing yourself using your own oven, pan, the needed water, and the rest. You get the idea, right? Everything is yours, and that's on premises. All that you use is owned by you, and nothing is managed by the vendor. The other options you can have is buy the ingredients and mix and bake the cake yourself. Now, this would be like IaaS. Here, the infra is managed by the provider, and we get to use it and customize it the way we want it. Here, the cloud service is a shared responsibility. The other options you still have on hand is simply pick a phone and order a cake. Now, this is a lot simpler than the rest we discussed so far. It's simply picking the phone and ordering the cake and pay for it when it arrives. Simple. And when it reaches home, you will have to arrange the table, garnish the cake if that's needed.